Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi. We're in Avodah Zarah, Daf 65. So at the end of 64, it said the Gemara relates, Rav Yehuda sent a gift. So Daf 65, to a Gentile named Avidarna on their festival day. So Rav Yehuda said, I know of him, but he does not worship idols. So he is not considered a Gentile with regard to the prohibition against giving a gift to a Gentile on their festival. So Rav Yosef said to him, but isn't it taught in a Braita, who is a ger toshav? It is anyone who has accepted upon himself before three chaverim not to worship idols. So Avidarna had not accepted this upon himself before three Jews. So Rav Yehuda replied to him, when that Braita is taught, it is with regard to the mitzvah to sustain him. So Rav Yosef further objected, but doesn't Rabbi Bar Hana say that Rabbi Yochanan says a ger toshav for whom 12 months pass without him circumcising himself is considered as a heretic of the Gentiles. And certainly this Avidarna is not circumcised. So Rav Yehuda replied, there, Rabbi Yochanan is referring to a case where the Gentile who desired to become a ger toshav took it upon himself to become circumcised, but he recanted and did not circumcise himself. And in such a case, it is assumed that he did not circumcise himself due to apostasy. Generally, in the case of a ger toshav who did not take this upon himself, this is not required of him. So the Gemara relates, Rava brought a gift to a minister named Bar Sheshakh on their festival day. So Rava said, I know of him that he does not worship idols. So Rava went to him and found him sitting up to his neck in rose water, and naked prostitutes were standing before him. So Bar Sheshakh said to him, do you have anything as fine as this in the world to come? So Rava said to him, ours is better than this. So Bar Sheshakh said to him, is there anything finer than this? And Rava said to him, you have the fear of government upon you. We will not have the fear of government upon us in the world to come. So Bar Sheshakh said to him, as for me, in any event, what fear of the government is there upon me? I am a powerful man. So while they were sitting, a certain royal officer came and said to Bar Sheshakh, rise, as the king requires you to appear before him. As he was going out, he said to Rava, may any eye that wishes to see evil upon you burst, as it is clear that you are correct. So Rava said to him, Amen. And then Bar Sheshakh's eye burst. So Rav Papi said, Rava should have said a response to him from this verse. King's daughters are among your favorites. At your right hand stands the queen in gold of Ophir. Psalms 45:10, indicating that in the world to come, the daughters of kings will serve the Jewish people. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, he should have said a response to him from here. The reward of the Jewish people will be such that no eye has seen it. God, aside from you, who will do for those who await him? Isaiah 64, verse 3. The Mishnah teaches if the Gentile hired him to do other work with him, even if he said to him while he was working with him, transport the barrel of wine used for a libation for me from this place to that place, his wage is permitted. That is, it is permitted for the Jew to derive benefit from the money. The Gemara notes that this formulation of the Mishnah indicates that this wage is permitted even if the Gentile did not say to him to transport the barrel of wine toward evening, that is, toward the end of his workday. The Gemara raises a contradiction from a Braita. In the case of one who hires a laborer, and toward evening the employer said to him, transport this barrel of wine used for libation from this place to that place, his wage is permitted. By inference, the reason for this ruling is that the employer said it to him toward the evening, and therefore, yes, it is permitted, as it is clear that he has completed the labor for which he is being paid, and the wage is not for moving the barrel. But if this happened during the entire day, not toward evening, this would not be permitted. So Abaye said, when we learned this in the Mishnah as well, we learned this with regard to the case where the employer said this toward evening. So Rava said this is not difficult. This case where the wage is forbidden, if it was not toward evening, is a case where the employer said to him, transport 100 barrels for me for 100 perutot, in which case moving all the barrels is considered a single task. And if one of the barrels was wine used for libation, the entire wage is forbidden. That case, in which the wage is permitted in any event, is the case where the employer said to him, transport each barrel for me for 1 peruta, such that each barrel is its own task. And so it is taught in a Braita, in the case of one who hires a laborer and said to him, transport 100 barrels for me for 100 prutot, and a barrel of wine used for libation was found among them, his wage is forbidden. But if the employer said to him, transport each barrel for 1 pruta, and there was a barrel of wine used for libation among them, his wage is permitted. So the Mishnah teaches, with regard to a Gentile who rents a Jew's donkey to carry wine used for a libation on it, its rental fee is forbidden. The Gemara asks, why do I need this additional clause? This is the same as the first clause, as the principle is the same, only the example is different. The Gemara answers, it was necessary to teach the latter clause in order to teach that if the Gentile rented the donkey to sit upon it, even if the Gentile placed his jug of wine used for libation on it, its rental fee is permitted. So the Gemara asks, is this to say that it is not the legal right of the renter to place a jug upon the donkey, and therefore placing the jug on the donkey was not included in the rental? The Gemara raises a contradiction to this from a Braita. With regard to one who rents a donkey to ride on, the renter may place on it his garment, his water jug, and his food for that journey. Beyond those items, the donkey driver, who would take the renter on the journey, may prevent him from placing anything on the animal by saying that he does not wish to further burden the donkey. The donkey driver may place on it barley and hay for the donkey, and his food for that day alone. Beyond those items, the renter may prevent him from placing anything on the animal on the grounds that it will inhibit its progress. So Abaye said, granted that it is the legal right of the renter to place a jug upon the donkey, but in any event, if he does not place it on the donkey, can we say to the driver, deduct the fee of this jug from the rental? Since the donkey driver will not deduct any amount from the rental fee if he does not place the jug on the donkey, therefore, even if he does place it, the rental fee is not forbidden. So with regard to the main point of the Braita, the Gemara asks, what are the circumstances? If locations in which one is able to purchase provisions on the way are common, the donkey driver can also prevent the renter from putting provisions on the donkey for the entire journey. And if locations in which one is able to purchase provisions along the way are uncommon, the renter cannot prevent the driver from taking his provisions for the journey either. So Rav Papa said, no, it is necessary to teach this halakha with regard to a case where locations in which one is able to go to the trouble of purchasing provisions are common between station and station. That is, one can find locations to purchase provisions along the way, but only with difficulty. So a donkey driver is accustomed to troubling himself to purchase provisions along the way. So it is not permitted for him to pack provisions for the entire journey on the donkey. A renter is not accustomed to troubling himself to purchase provisions along the way, so he is allowed to pack all of his provisions. The Gemara relates, the father of Rav Achas, son of Rav Ika, would pour wine, which he sold to Gentiles, into their wineskins, and go and ferry them over the crossing, and they would give him the jugs in which the wine has been stored as payment. The jugs that the wine had been stored in were included in the sale, and the Gentiles would pay him by returning the jugs. People came and told Abaye that Rav Ika was accepting a wage from the wine of Gentiles. And Abaye said to them, when he labored with permitted wine, since he was pouring kosher wine into the wineskins, and only subsequently the wine was rendered forbidden by being in the possession of Gentiles. The Gemara asked, but doesn't he desire the preservation of the wine in the wineskins, in that the wineskins should not be torn, as he would then need to return the jugs he received in payment? The Gemara answers, in a case where he stipulated with the Gentile purchasers that even if the wineskins were to tear, it would be at their expense and not his, and he would keep the jugs in any event. Alternatively, it is a case where the Gentile purchasers brought barrels with them so that they could pour the wine into them should the wineskins be torn. The Gemara asked, but didn't he ferry them over the crossing, which is laboring with forbidden wine? The Gemara answers, this is not a case where he was ferrying the wine over the crossing himself, as he made an arrangement with the ferryman and said to the ferryman initially that the latter would ferry the buyers in the barrels without payment. Alternatively, it was a case where he held special signal knots in collusion with the ferryman that he would ferry these people without payment. In any event, he was not laboring for them himself. So back to the Mishnah, it says, in the case of wine used for libation that fell on grapes, one rinses them and they are permitted. But if the grapes were cracked, they are forbidden. In a case where the wine fell on figs or on dates, if there is sufficient wine in them to impart flavor, they are forbidden. And there was an incident involving Bothus ben Zunan, who transported dried figs in a ship, and a barrel of wine used for a libation broke and fell on them. And he asked the sages as to the halacha, and the sages deemed the figs permitted. So this is the principle. Anything that benefits from a forbidden item imparting flavor to it, that is, the forbidden item contributes a positive taste to it, it is forbidden. And anything that does not benefit from a forbidden item imparting flavor to it is permitted, such as forbidden vinegar that fell into split beans, as the flavor imparted by the vinegar does not enhance the taste of the beans. So now back to the Gemara. The Gemara asked with regard to the incident related in the Mishnah. It says, was an incident cited to contradict the halacha stated immediately before it? The Gemara answers, the Mishnah is incomplete, and this is what it is teaching. If the wine imparts flavor to the detriment of the mixture, the food is permitted. And there was also an incident involving Bothus ben Zunan, who was transporting dried figs in a ship, and a barrel of wine used for a libation broke and fell on them, and the incident came before the sages, and the sages deemed the figs permitted, because the flavor given by the wine did not enhance their taste, but was instead to their detriment. The Gemara relates, there was an incident involving a certain heap of wheat upon which a barrel of wine used for a libation fell. So Rava permitted selling it to Gentiles, as deriving benefit from it is not prohibited. So Rabba bar Levi raised an objection to Rava from a Braita with regard to a garment in which diverse kinds, a prohibited mixture of wool and linen, or shatnez, have been lost. That is, it is known that linen fibers became mixed into the woolen garment, but they cannot be detected and removed. One may not sell the garment to a Gentile, nor fashion it into a saddlecloth for a donkey, but one may make it into shrouds for a corpse with no one to bury it. So, and make mitzvah, as a corpse is not obligated in the observance of mitzvot. So Rabba bar Levi asked, what is the reason that it is not permitted to sell it to a Gentile? Perhaps he will come to sell it to a Jew who will not know that it is forbidden. Here too, with regard to the wheat, the Gentile purchasers may come to sell it to a Jew who is prohibited from consuming it. So Rava then retracted his decision and permitted grinding the wheat and baking bread with it and selling it to Gentiles not in the presence of Jews. In this manner, Jews will not be likely to buy bread from the Gentiles, as the bread of Gentiles is forbidden to Jews. So we learned in the Mishnah, in a case of wine used for a libation that fell on grapes, one rinses them and they are permitted. But if the grapes were cracked, they are forbidden. The Gemara infers if the grapes are cracked, the Gemara infers if the grapes are cracked, they are forbidden, but grapes that are not cracked are not forbidden. If so, what is the cause for concern in the case where the wine spilled on the wheat? It should be sufficient to rinse the wheat. So Rav Papa said, wheat is different since because of its splits, its status is similar to that of grapes that are cracked. And that is the end of Daf 65.